Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Dhanu's channel. So today it is 1st of February 2025, and everyone knows that on this day, as far as Union Public Service Commission is considered, we have one important document, that is Budget 2026. So in this video, I am going to make a quick recap about what our Finance Minister Sri Nirmala Sitharamanji has discussed in today's budget. So before going into that, let me give a brief introduction about what is budget. So all we know this. So budget is nothing but the incomes and expenses of any person. Everyone has a budget here. So you have your income sources, you have your expenses, that is called budget. So every family has the budget. I'm sitting in the state of Telangana here. Telangana state has its own budget and the country has its own budget. That is how budget is. So budget is nothing but incomes and expenses. Now, whenever we come to income, there are two types of incomes. Incomes are also known as receipts, by the way. Receipts are of two types. One is revenue receipts. The second one is capital receipts. Revenue receipts are that receipts which neither create liability nor is going to reduce any asset. Through that, you can enjoy your income without any loss. On the other hand, capital income is that income which is either going to create liability or going to reduce the asset. Coming to the expenditure component, we have two types of expenditures, revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. Revenue expenditure meaning is any expenditure which is neither going to create asset nor going to reduce any liability, that is called revenue expenditure. Capital expenditure is either it should create an asset or reduce a liability. This is how budget components are there. So in short, in this video I am going to make you to understand what are the components of this year budgets. So whenever we study budget, we have to just look what is the total budget of the country, what is the tax receipts, what is the non-tax receipts, what is the capital receipts, what is the expenditure, be it revenue expenditure, capital expenditure. So don't make it too complicated, put it in very simple terms. What is budget? Incomes, expenses. What are the incomes of Government of India? You have revenue incomes, capital incomes, expenses, revenue expenses, capital expenses. Now in this video, we will show what is the total budget of Government of India for the financial year 2026, which is going to start on 1st February 2025 and is going to end on 31st of March 2026. So let's start with this. Please allow me to share the screen. So this is budget 2025-26, ladies and gentlemen. So what we are discussing here, this is class number 1. I'll just quickly go through what are the major components in this budget. As I said, budget is nothing but the incomes and expenses of government. It is presented on 1st of February every year. So is our budget this year. According to Constitution Article 112, it is mandated to present the budget. According to this year budget, Nirmala Sitharamanji is expecting a nominal GDP of rise of 10.1% in financial year 26. So the total GDP, nominal GDP of this country is going to be 10.1% for the upcoming financial year, which accounts or which translates into absolute number of around 356.9 lakh crores. 356.9 lakh crores. The total nominal GDP of the country for the upcoming year is 356 lakh crores. Now, as I said, budget is nothing but receipts and expenses. So whatever the expenses are there, that should be your incomes. So the total expenses this year is 50.65 lakh crores. So the budget is 50.65 lakh crores. So the total budget is 50.65 lakh crores. In that, we have to get 50.65 lakh crores through various receipts and we have various expenses. So what are the receipts that we have? We have revenue receipts, capital receipts. So revenue receipts are, again, we know this, tax receipts, non-tax receipts. So through revenue receipts, among this 50.65 lakh crores, government is getting 34.20 lakh crores. I am not going in detail, just remember some statistics so that you will be able to approach mains answer writing. The total budget of the government is 50.65 lakh crores. In that, the revenue receipts is 34.20 lakh crores, the capital receipts is 16.45 lakh crores. So together it is going to make around 50.65 lakh crores. So 34 lakh crores is from revenue, 16 lakh crores is from capital. Now again in the revenue, you have two components. One is taxes, non-taxes. Through taxes, Government of India is collecting around 28.37 lakh crores. Through non-taxes, be it services, income through interest and dividends or transfer payments, Government of India is getting 5.83 lakh crores. Which means Taxes contribute 12% of GDP in the country today. Non-taxes are contributing 1.6% of GDP. So total revenue receipts is 34.20 lakh crores. In that, taxes is somewhere around 12% of GDP. Non-taxes is 1.6% of GDP. So revenue receipts compound to 13.6% of GDP. So it was 28.37 lakh crores in absolute numbers and 5.83 lakh crores in absolute numbers as far as the revenue receipts are considered. When you go to the capital receipts are today in this budget, government is collecting through borrowings and disinvestments. There is no disinvestments per se. We are recovering our loans that we have extended. So through borrowings, Government of India is getting 15.68 lakh crores. 15.68 lakh crores is our borrowings this year, whereas through recovery of loans, we are getting 29,000 crores. Together, it constitutes around 16.45 lakh crores. Now, in the borrowings, we know that Union Government, according to Article 292 of Indian Constitution, can borrow within the country, they can borrow outside. So, in this, within the country, you can borrow through long-term loans, short-term loans. This year, government is not going to borrow from short-term, that is through treasury bills. Rather, it is going through market securities or government securities, long-term borrowings. So, in that borrowings also, market borrowings are dominating, followed by securities against small savings. If you have kept your money in post offices, that comes under small savings schemes. That is operated by Ministry of Post, by the way. From there, Government of India can borrow from the post office. So securities against small savings is the second one in the borrowings. From the external borrowings, today this year, government is collecting around 23.5 thousand crores, around 23,500 crores. This is external debt. So this is very clear that total debt is 15.68 lakh crores. In that, a nominal part is from external debts, 23,000 lakh crores. So it is very paltry amount, somewhere around 3% of total loans. So in India, external borrowings are far less than internal borrowings. That is one thing that we have to understand. So this is our revenue receipts. So whenever you look at the incomes, there is revenue receipts of 34.2 lakh crores, capital receipts of 16.4 lakh crores. Together it is constituting around 50 lakh crores. Now how we are spending this amount? We are spending this as a component of revenue expenditure, capital expenditure. Let's start with capital expenditure itself. The total capital expenditure that Government of India is spending is rupees 11.21 lakh crores. So around 11.21 lakh crores. Last year it was 11.11. This year it was increased by 10,000 crores. Right, 11.21 lakh crores is this year's total capital expenditure. When it comes to the revenue expenditure, again you have two types of revenue expenditure. One is through interest payments. A large portion of our expenses are going, look at this, for the interest payments that we have borrowed earlier. So what is the total incomes or interest that we are paying? 12.76 lakh crores is the interest that we are paying, and grants given for the states for capital asset creation is 4.27 lakh crores in this year. Right, 4.27 lakh crores. So interest payments form the major chunk of your expenses items. After this, if you look grant in aids and asset creation, if you add both, that is called effective capital expenditure. So effective capital expenditure this year stood at 15.48 lakh crores. Last year it was around 15 lakh crores. These are some minor things that we have to remember as far as the taxes are considered, as far as expenses are considered. So you have capital expenditure in this way in the country. Coming to the so-called revenue expenditure, this is what we have, capital and revenue. So total expenses is 50.65 lakh crores. So in that 50.65 lakh crores, I am spending around 40 lakh crores to the revenue. Capital is 11 lakh crores or 10 lakh crores, you can remember, 39 and 11. So budget, whenever we study, don't make it complicated again. Just remember this, what is the total budget? 50.65. There are two sources of income, two sources of expenses. Now after that, UPSC has the tendency of asking some trends. So if you are getting income through revenue receipts as well as capital receipts, what is the order of getting the revenue? What is the order of spending it? So this is one thing that we have to remember. So as far as order is considered, if you look at how we are getting, if you are getting 1 rupee, in that 1 rupee, almost borrowings constitute 24 paisa. So now highest amount is coming from borrowings, followed by the income tax, followed by the GST, followed by the corporation tax, followed by excise duty and customs duty. This order is extremely important for UPSC prelims. So from where we are getting this amount? We are getting from revenue receipts and capital receipts. If you club them, highest amount is coming from borrowings, followed by income tax, followed by GST, followed by corporation tax, followed by excise duty, followed by customs tax. This is what we have to remember first. Right. Second thing, as far as expenses are considered, I already said highest expense is going for interest rate or interest payment obligations. So highest is interest payment obligations, or before that state share of taxes. They will take state of taxes, and second one is interest payments. After that it is followed by central sector schemes. So remember three: state share, interest payments, central sector. So interest payments constitute 20 paisa of your 1 rupee expenditure, which means almost 1/5 of total expenses are going for interest payments. Afterwards, it is followed by central sponsored schemes, defense and finance commission transfer payments, or subsidies and pensions. This is the order, no need to go in depth. Subsidies, we are paying around 6 paisa for every rupee that we are spending. Pensions, we are spending around 4 paisa for every 1 rupee that we are spending. So as far as the list of major expenses are considered, just remember the major expenses, largest amount is going to state share of taxes, followed by the interest rates, followed by the central sector scheme. This is what we have. After this, we all know that whenever we study budget, we not only study incomes and expenses, we'll also study whether incomes are more or expenses are more. Normally for our country, expenses are more than incomes. As a result, whenever expenses are more than incomes, we always face a scenario known as the so-called deficits. So we have to understand what are the trends in deficit. This is second most important thing that we have to understand. If you look at the trends in deficit for this financial year, that is for the financial year 2026, Government of India is targeting a fiscal deficit of 4.4% of GDP, revenue deficit of 1.5% of GDP, primary deficit of 0.8% of GDP, and effective revenue deficit of 0.3% of GDP. So UPSC again has the tendency of asking this question. They will always ask the questions based on the so-called how our deficits are decreasing. It is fiscal deficit, followed by the revenue deficit, followed by the primary deficit, followed by effective revenue deficit. This is one way of asking the question. So far three trends you have to remember. One is what are the major sources of income, what are the major sources of expense. After that, you have to look at what is the descending order of deficits. In the deficits itself, UPSC also has the tendency of asking whether the deficits are consistently decreasing from the last few years or not. That we will look when I come to that topic. So let us extend our discussion further. So going from here, we always again have one more thing, that is after this deficits, what is the total central government debt that we have today? If you look at the total central government debt to today, you have around 56.1% of GDP. So the total debt that government has borrowed so far is 56.1% of GDP. This is another thing that we have to remember. And if you look at the deficits, all deficits since 2021, financial year 2021, all deficits are consistently decreasing, all the four deficits. We look at that in a flow chart. After that, taxes is 12% of GDP. I already said taxes constitute 12% of this year's budget. So in that, direct taxes are more than indirect taxes. Direct taxes are more than indirect taxes. These are the few things that we have to remember. Budget is this. Who presents budget? Ministry of Finance, Budget Division. And Article 112 says it is the President who shall lay before both the Houses of Parliament an annual financial statement every year containing the estimates of expenses and receipts of Government of India for the upcoming financial year. So this is the President who shall lay. On behalf of President, it is Miss Finance Minister who is coming and presenting it. So whenever you say budget, don't make it complicated. Try to understand budget only in this way. What are the incomes? From which source we are getting this? Remember some static component, data. 50.65 lakh crores is expense, so should be the 50.65 lakhs in the income. Revenue income is 34.20 lakh crores, capital income is 16.45 lakh crores, revenue expenses 39.44 lakh crores, capital expenditure is 11.21 lakh crores. In this, if you further go, remember the order. If you are preparing for state exams, remember the data. Taxes is 28.37 lakh crores, non-taxes is 5.83 lakh crores. So taxes constitutes 12% of GDP. In that, 7% is by direct taxes. Indirect taxes is around 6%. This is what we have to remember. So whenever you prepare budget, prepare in this way. The rest of the story of budget. See what Nirmala Sitharaman says. This is what she will say. Now, whenever she is collecting taxes, she has to say from where we are collecting tax, whether we are going to give relief for the tax, relief for the people or not when we are collecting the tax. That will be one discussion. When Government of India is spending almost 50.65 lakh crores, you should say for what expenses I am spending it, which a sector has got what. So in the budget speech, this will be the discussion, which sector has got what. But for UPSC, this is the essence. So whenever February 1st comes, always remember budget to prepare. In this way your work is done. So after that, go and read the budget speech. If it is possible, listen to the budget speech. Whatever they are spending, from where they are collecting, they will say. So from in the collection, they will say about taxes. We have to just look at what are the taxes. But most importantly, when it comes to UPSC prelims, we have to look at the so-called the deficit trends. So this is one thing that we have to observe. After this, what are the charts we have to look at in the budget? Deficit trends, extremely important for UPSC prelims. Trends in the tax receipts, how tax receipts are changing. Trends in the capital expenditure, in absolute numbers how it is changing, in percentage format how it is changing. After that, expenditure on major items also we have to look at it. What are the major expenses that we are making? After that, this year budget highlights in speech. Tax reforms is one thing that we have to see. And this year the theme of budget is Sabka Vishwas. The theme of this year budget is Sabka Vishwas. So government wants to attain sustained balanced growth of all the regions. This is what the theme of this year budget is, Sabka Vishwas. Now it is considered just like a bus going from one place to its destination. So we are in a bus. Imagine that the bus wants some engine, bus wants some fuel, bus wants some spirit. What is driving that bus? And the next one is what is the destination that the bus has to reach. So the engines that finance minister said for this bus is four. It is a 4-engine vehicle. Agriculture, MSMEs, investments, exports. So the destination is we have to reach by 2047 Viksit Bharat. Further, the fuel is the reforms that Government of India has got. The spirit is inclusivity. So this is how we have to look. So in this budget, what they have done for agriculture, Sitharaman is spending around 50 lakh crores for expenses. So for agriculture, what is the expense? What is the major reforms that they bought? MSMEs, what is the reforms? Investments, what is the reforms? Exports, what is the reforms? That is what we have to focus. And this year, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has clearly said that they have been focusing on few important areas, and those few important areas are something like we are focusing on the following parameters. Government of India wants 100% school education. It wants affordable, qualitative and comprehensive healthcare. So on food it is concentrating, on education it is concentrating, on health it is concentrating, and it wants 100% skill development in the country. And then as far as women is considered, she wants to see 70% of the women workforce or labor force to be in the economic activity. And all this should be coupled with the growth of the farmers, who are the engines or who are considered as the food producers of the world. Our farmers are considered as the food producers of the world in Nirmala Sitharaman's context. So these are the things that Nirmala Sitharaman was speaking about in today's budget. So whatever we discuss from now, it is an extension of it. So when I say budget, that is the only chart that you have to remember. The rest of the things are how we are coming, how we are spending. So if you look at the deficit trends, this is what I said. So the first thing that I said here in the charts to look at is deficit trends. This is the deficit trend that you have to look. So this is as a percentage of GDP, ladies and gentlemen. So percentage of GDP, I already said the GDP of the country nominally is somewhere around 356 lakh crores for this year. In this, if you see the deficits for the budget estimates 2026, it is fiscal deficit at 4.4%, revenue deficit at 1.5%, primary deficit at 0.8%, effective revenue deficit 0.3%. So the order is fiscal deficit greater than, revenue deficit greater than, primary deficit greater than, effective revenue deficit 4.4, 1.5, 0.8, 0.3 respectively. This is first way of studying this deficits. The second way of studying this chart is they have to look how expenses are falling, how deficits are in a trend ever since 2016 and 17. If you look, there has been inconsistency here. They have been falling, but there has been inconsistency due to COVID lockdown. So if you take from 2021, just carefully observe from 2021, that is what UPSC can pick the question. So if you look from 2021, the deficit trends has been declining year after year. So this is one positive thing that we have to observe. So since 2021 financial year, the fiscal deficits, look at fiscal deficits, look at revenue deficit. Red one is revenue deficit, And look at the effective revenue deficit 6.1, 3.3, 3, 2, 1 and 0.3. And look at the so-called primary deficits 5.7, 3.3, 2.8, 1.6, 1.3 and 0.8. And look at the so-called revenue deficit 7.3, 4.4, 4, 2.6, 1.9 and 1.5. So all are showing one trend, that is fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, effective revenue deficit and primary deficit are consistently decreasing. Consistently is the key word here. Since how long it has been consistent? Financial year 2021, financial year 22, financial year 23, financial year 24, financial year 25 and financial year 26. From the last 6 years, fiscal deficit as a percentage of GDP has been consistently decreasing. This is one way of asking the question. The second way is they will ask you to keep these 4 deficits in order. Already we have discussed the order. So this is one way to look at this chart. The second thing that we have to look at this chart is trends in the tax receipts. How tax receipts have been following in the country. So if you look at the tax receipts trends in the country, so that tax receipts photo is missed, we'll explain this later. So just remember the trends in tax receipts is simple. Direct taxes are greater than the so-called indirect taxes in the country. Direct taxes are greater than indirect taxes in the country. Let us So I will show you this at a later point. Direct taxes are greater than indirect taxes. The next thing that we have to look at is, so just remember direct taxes, trends in capital expenditure, how capital expenditure is there in terms of absolute numbers, in terms of lakh crores. So whatever it is in blue, capital expenditure of the government, whatever it is in yellow, that is grants given for the states for capital asset creation. If you add both, that is effective capital expenditure. So effective capital expenditure is equal to capital expenditure of government plus grants given by the central government for the states for capital asset creation. So if you look at this, it has been 4.5, 4.5, 2018. Effective capital expenditure we are speaking 5, 5.2, 6.4, 8.4, 10.5, 12.5, 13.2, 15.5. So this shows that effective capital expenditure in the country has been consistently increasing from 2018. So 2018 onwards consistently it is increasing. From 2018 capital expenditure is also consistently increasing. This is one thing that you can observe. Capital expenditure also increased consistently, and this year capital expenditure and revenue expenditure, effective capital expenditure together it is making at 15.545 lakh crores. So this is what the order is. So this is second question that they can ask. Effective capital expenditure has been consistently increasing from financial year 2018. Deficits have been consistently decreasing from financial year 21. Capital expenditure has been consistently increasing from 2018. This is another trend. If you look at it as a percentage of GDP, so look at this. Today the total capital expenditure, effective capital expenditure is 4.3% of GDP, which means 3.1%. This is percentage. The other one is in terms of absolute numbers. In terms of absolute numbers, effective capital expenditure has been consistently increasing. But if we take in percentage format, percentages, consistency will not be there. That is the clue. So in terms of percentages, consistently there is not there. Consistency you cannot find. After 2024, there is decline and then there is increase. So there is no consistent increase. This is one thing that you can remember. It's just absolute numbers is this, consistency is there, but here there is no consistency. Why there will be no consistency? In terms of percentages, it is difficult to express in consistency, or it is difficult to show consistency. But in terms of absolute numbers, you can show it. And the last thing that we have to remember is what are the tax reforms that Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji has done for this. This was a great relief for the middle class people of the country, because this time, for a very long time, the middle class has been waiting this from Prime Minister Modi and his cabinet. So this time there was a tax relief for middle class people who are earning income tax up to 12 lakh rupees per year. So almost 12 lakh crores was 12 lakh employees, 12 lakh income employees were removed from the so-called tax burden. This was the greatest tax relief that India has achieved since its independence. Now, if you look for the people who are earning more than 12 lakh crores, how the tax slabs are there, this is the tax slab. So whatever the flowchart that you are seeing or the slide you are seeing, this is for those people who are earning more than 12 lakhs per year. So what is the thing? If for the 13, say for example, if I am earning 13 lakh per every year, I have to pay the taxes in this slab 0 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 12, 12 to 16, 16 to 20, 20 to 25, and greater than 25. So first bracket is nil, second is 5%, 10%, 15%, 24%, 25% and 30%. So this is how the slabs were changed. This is only for those people who are earning more than 12 lakhs. Say for example, if someone is earning 13 lakhs, you know how to classify. First they will divide all this into slabs and then they will calculate it, right? These are the major things that we have to look as far as budget of India is considered. And this is one great thing, for the government of India, particularly for the middle class people. And this was a great relief as far as income tax is considered. And there are some other things that we have to remember. Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji has become the Prime Finance Minister who has presented the budget for a lot of number of times. So for the first time, who is the Finance Minister who presented the budget for many times in the country is Sitharaman ji. For 9 times she has presented it. So subsequently, the second major highlight is the tax relief that the government has given. And look at the way, the beauty that government is going on. We are going for Viksit Bharat, and in this, government has said that there are engines, there is fuel, there is spirit, and there is destination. So in my next video, that is budget number 2, 3, 4, I'll make the videos. Just I'll give a quick gap about where we are going to spend this money maximum. But there is one more thing before ending. So if you look at the expenses of government of India, majorly where you look at the major expenses are going for this. If you are preparing from group exams like group 1 and group 2, you can have a look at it. Defense, we have spent almost 4.9 lakh crores. Rural development, 2.66 lakh crores. Home affairs, 2.33 lakh crores. Agriculture, 1.71 lakh crores. Education, 1.28 lakh crores. Health, 98,000 crores. Urban infrastructure, 96,000 crores. IT, 95,000 crores. Energy, 81,000 crores. Commerce, 65,000 crores. Social welfare, 60,000 crores. And scientific developments, 55,000 crores. So this is what expenses is. So ladies and gentlemen, all I say is whenever we prepare budget, don't make it complicated. So January 31st and February 1st are 2 dates where there will be too much news about economy, particularly from economic survey as well as budget. In the budget, this is the thing. The only thing that we have to look is we have to take. Now what I will do is, in the budget speech, Sitharaman has said about various aspects. What are the various aspects by the end of the day? This is about where we are spending the amount. So we will be spending on these 4 engines and how Nirmala Sitharaman has allocated her money in these forms. So in these 4 themes, I'll make 4 videos. This will be the end of the budget. So don't waste your time much into this budget. Whatever I said, this is more than enough. However, in the economic survey that Government of India has released the other day, we have 14 chapters. I will be making each chapter video, every day 1 video. You just watch it. That will be sufficient for your mains, and this will be sufficient for your prelims. Thanks. That is what we have for the day. Have a great day, guys. Good night all.